12 weeks to Frankfurt. Sub 9 is the goal, and I've been guessing my training zones for months. Until now. So, tomorrow I'm doing a VO2max and lactate threshold test. It's not the first one I've ever done. Back when I was a speed skater, I did 2 already. And as we're moving into the final 12 weeks before Ironman Frankfurt, we're going to introduce threshold, and we're going to gradually build up time at threshold over those 12 weeks. And up until now, it's only been base phases and endurance, so it matters to have accurate zone data and take out the guesswork. Because up until now, I've worked with the estimated data provided by Garmin. I've been running with the assumption that my run lactate threshold pace is 3 minutes and 45 seconds per kilometer, which I don't believe I could hold for 40 minutes to 1 hour, so that's likely inaccurate. I have been training on the bike with a FTP of 320, which I did test myself using a 20-minute test back in January, so that's also a bit outdated. I am wondering if that has improved, as we've only done base phases and endurance and not really any muscular endurance. So really curious to see what results are coming from there. At the moment, Garmin estimates my VO2max on the run to be 65 and on the bike 67. So I'm really interested to see the results and see how accurate Garmin is, and I hope we get enough information to accurately go into these final 12 weeks with accurate zones and really be able to dial in intensity. So without further ado, let's get to it. The test consisted of a run, which wasn't done to the max, and a bike, which was. But what is VO2 max? It's the maximum rate of oxygen your body can take in and use during intense exercise. The higher the number, the more oxygen your body can utilize, allowing higher intensity efforts for longer. And then lactate threshold is the intensity at which lactic acid begins to accumulate in your bloodstream faster than it can be removed, which causes a burning sensation. Let's dive into them, starting off with the bike. My VO2max turned out to be 55.9 compared to my Garmin's estimated 67. That is quite a big gap, and it's way lower than what I had expected it to be. And something similar goes for my threshold power. My anaerobic threshold power is actually 300 watts, and compared to my own tested 320 watts. So that changes a few things, but we'll dive deeper into that in just a bit. For the run, it turned out that my VO2max is 53.7 compared to my Garmin's estimated 65. That is also quite a big gap and totally not what I had expected. But here's where things get interesting. The threshold basis. My first threshold, which is the aerobic threshold, lies at 3 minutes and 57 seconds per kilometer pace, which is way higher than what I've been training at the moment. And for my second threshold, which is the anaerobic threshold, the pace lies at 3 minutes and 21 seconds per kilometer pace, which is also significantly faster than what I've been running at the moment. So how does this change my zones? For the run, that changes quite a bit, as both my zone 2 and my zone 4 move up quite a bit, like a lot. I'm gonna need to run faster in my endurance runs, and I'm gonna need to run faster in my threshold intervals. So yeah, these test results change a whole lot in my approach to training. I'm gonna need to take it a little bit slower on the bike and see what it does there. And I'm gonna need to kick it up a notch on the run, because I've been running basically too slow. Perhaps there's more fitness to gain from running just a bit faster. Really interesting to see, and I'm quite interested to see how this is going to turn out and how we progress from here. Before we actually move on, I wanted to take another look at the power data, because my first aerobic threshold turned out to be 236 watts. And during the test, when I hit that number, I was at a heart rate of around 144, and that is not what I'm actually used to, because I usually do my daily rise at a power of like 225, and I maintain a heart rate of between the 130 and 134, so that's a bit odd in my eyes, but something I need to consider in when I'm actually going to update my zones. So just wanted to mention that before we move on. So with 12 weeks to Ironman Frankfurt, we can establish that my aerobic base is pretty solid. The test also revealed that my running economy is very well with a high frequency. So that's some good news. My body composition at the moment is also very on point and I'm happy with. So that's also good. And I'd say my cycling power is also at the point where it should be. And from here, we're going to go progress, of course. So we now enter the build phase, and we're going to introduce more threshold work. This week is my first threshold session with 4x4 minutes. And I think for now, I'll keep doing them at the 320 watts and see how that feels, and perhaps consider lowering my wattage to the actual test result wattage later if this feels off. But we can tell after a week of training. And for the run, we're going to implement some longer runs. We're going to introduce more race-based blocks. And overall, the running pace should just be faster than what it used to be. And not just because I'm going to make progression, but just because I need to put in more effort to get that stimulus. So yeah, the most unexpected factors were definitely the VO2max, but VO2max isn't really a driving factor in triathlon. Sure, it matters, but the lactate thresholds that we've discussed in detail right now what matter way more than VO2max does. And from here, we're just going to go progress. We're going to increase session durations, we're gonna increase time at threshold, we're gonna increase repetitions, we're gonna slowly but surely progress volume and intensity. So do the numbers and test results actually support a sub 9 hour Ironman Frankfurt? I think so, yeah, sure. We've got a small margin, but it definitely is doable with these numbers. The bike course is relatively flat and with a average power of around 230 to 240. Around 4 hours and 40 minutes on the bike should definitely be doable, but the running is still a unsure factor. If I pace myself well on the bike and the bike goes well, then based on my threshold paces I should run a marathon of around 2 hours and 55 minutes and 3 hours and 5 minutes. But if I overbike it, this could turn to a 3 hour and 15-minute marathon, which is where I might be able to lose that sub 9 hours. Of course, everything needs to work out right. We have to maintain consistency in training and avoid injuries. That's definitely where the focus should be and remain. Race day execution is also a big factor. On the bike, I really gotta be careful and avoid surges and stick to my pacing plan to be able to run as well as I hope to. But overall, I'm pretty excited to go into these final 12 weeks of training, and I'm even more excited to go race in Frankfurt and chase that sub 9-hour goal. It's going to be an amazing race, and I just can't wait for it to happen. If you had a VO2 max test or a lactate threshold test, drop those numbers down below in the comments. Next week, I'll show you a structured training week that I typically go through and how these new zones have been impacting my training. And yeah, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you all again next week.